My wife said during couples therapy, if I had to choose between you and my ex right now, I'd choose him. The therapist went silent. I stood up, looked at her, and said, then go choose him. I walked out. The voicemail she left that night begging me to come back went unanswered. I'm 36, have been married to my wife, 34, for 7 years. Together for 9 total. We have no kids. She always said she wasn't ready. Kept pushing the timeline back year after year. I respected that because I thought we had time. Looking back, maybe that was a sign I should have paid more attention to. Maybe she was never planning a future with me. We'd been in couples therapy for about 3 months. Her idea, actually. She said we'd lost our spark and needed professional help reconnecting. I agreed immediately because I loved her and wanted to fix whatever was broken between us. I thought we were making real progress. The therapist seemed competent and insightful. We were communicating more openly than we had in years. I was learning her love language, or whatever they call it these days. I genuinely believed we were turning a corner. Last Tuesday was our usual session. 6 p.m., same office, same uncomfortable leather couch. The therapist asked us to do an exercise. Something about being radically honest about our deepest feelings. A safe space for truth, she called it. No judgment, no interruptions. Just raw honesty from both of us. My wife went first. She talked about feeling disconnected lately. About how she sometimes wondered if she'd settled too quickly when she married me. About how she missed the passion and excitement of her 20s. Normal stuff, I thought. Every marriage has ups and downs. Every long-term relationship goes through phases where the excitement dims. Then the therapist asked her a question that changed everything in an instant. If you could go back and make a different choice about your life, would you? My wife got quiet. Really quiet. The kind of quiet that makes your stomach drop through the floor because you can feel something terrible coming and you're powerless to stop it. Sometimes I think about him, she said softly, almost whispering. My ex, the one before you, I knew exactly who she meant. They dated for 2 years in her mid-20s. He'd broken up with her. Actually, moved away for a job opportunity and didn't want to do long distance. She'd been completely devastated when we first met. I helped her heal from that heartbreak. I was patient, I was kind, I was everything she said she needed. Or so I thought. The therapist nodded, encouraging her to continue exploring these feelings. I've been following him on social media. He moved back to the area about a year ago. He's not married and I wonder sometimes. What if things had been different? What if he'd stayed? My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. But I stayed quiet. Safe space for truth, right? That's what we agreed to. Do you ever reach out to him? The therapist asked gently. We've messaged a few times. Nothing inappropriate. Just catching up. Seeing how each other are doing, news to me. Complete and total news. She'd never mentioned any of this. Not once in the year since he'd apparently moved back. The therapist turned to me. How does hearing this make you feel? Before I could even open my mouth to respond, my wife kept going. Like a dam had suddenly broken and she couldn't stop the flood. I don't know if I married the right person. She looked at me with tears forming. I love you. I do. I really do. But I don't know if I'm in love with you anymore. There's a difference. And when I think about him, I feel alive. Electric. The way I used to feel when everything was new and exciting. The therapist leaned forward in her chair. This is important work. Let's explore this feeling more deeply. If you had to choose right now, in this exact moment, between your husband and your ex, what would your gut tell you? I expected hesitation. I expected her to say she was confused and needed more time to process. I expected her to say it was complicated and she didn't know. I expected something that acknowledged the 7 years we'd built together. Instead, without missing a beat, she said, "If I had to choose between you and him right now, I'd choose him." The room went dead silent. You could hear the air conditioning humming. The therapist's face went completely blank. Her professional training kicked in to hide her reaction. But I saw the flicker of shock before she masked it. She hadn't expected that answer either. In all her years of doing this, she probably hadn't heard something so brutally honest and devastating. I sat there for maybe 5 seconds. Felt like an hour. 7 years of marriage. 9 years of my life invested in this woman. Building a home together. Planning a future. Supporting each other through hard times. And she just told me, in front of a licensed witness, that she'd choose a guy who dumped her years ago over me. I stood up slowly, then go choose him. I grabbed my jacket from the back of the chair. Wait, that's not what my wife started, reaching for my arm. No. I pulled away from her touch. You just told me, in couples therapy specifically designed to save our marriage, that you'd pick your ex over me. Without hesitating. Without even thinking about it. What exactly am I supposed to do with that information? Beg you to reconsider. Compete for your attention? No. You want him? Go get him. We're done. This was supposed to be a safe space. I was just being honest like you always ask me to be, and I genuinely appreciate the honesty. Now I finally know exactly where I stand in your heart. It's not first place. Goodbye. I walked out. Didn't look back. Got in my car and drove straight to my buddy's apartment. He's my closest friend. Known him since freshman year of college. I told him what happened over a bottle of whiskey. He didn't say much, which was exactly what I needed. Just listened and poured another drink when mine got empty. At 11:47 p.m., my phone buzzed. Voicemail from her, "Baby, please. I didn't mean it like that. It was just the exercise. I was being hypothetical. Please come home. I love you. I chose you 7 years ago. What I said came out completely wrong. Please call me back. I'm so sorry. Please. I'm begging you." I listened to it once. Then I turned off my phone and went to sleep on my friend's couch. That was 4 days ago. Haven't been home since. Haven't returned any of her calls or texts. Haven't responded to a single message. Some people might think I'm overreacting. That I should have stayed and talked it through like adults. But here's the thing that keeps running through my mind: she didn't hesitate. Not even for a second. Not even a flicker of doubt crossed her face. After 7 years of marriage, 9 years together, she didn't even pause before saying she'd choose someone else over me. That's not a slip of the tongue or a momentary lapse in judgment. That's the truth finally coming out in a moment when her guard was down. I'm meeting with a divorce attorney tomorrow morning. Update 1. 1 week later, so, a lot has happened since my original post. First, the attorney meeting. I sat down with a family law specialist, recommended by a colleague who went through his own divorce last year. Laid out the entire situation in detail. His assessment was pretty straightforward, but sobering. We own a house together. Both names on the deed. Purchased 5 years ago with money we both saved. We have retirement accounts, joint savings, 2 cars. No prenup because I was young and stupid and head over heels in love. In my state, everything gets split roughly 50-50 in a no-fault divorce. Doesn't matter that she emotionally cheated. Months of secret messaging her ex absolutely counts in my book. Doesn't matter what she said in therapy. The law doesn't care about feelings or betrayal or broken hearts. Bottom line, I'm going to lose about half of everything I've spent years building. The house will probably have to be sold because neither of us can afford to buy the other out. I'll walk away with maybe $180,000 in total assets after everything is divided. Not nothing, but not what I had either. The attorney said this is standard and I should prepare myself for the financial reality. I signed the retainer anyway. Some things are more expensive than money. My sanity and self-respect are worth the cost. The attorney sent her the divorce papers by certified mail on Wednesday afternoon. Wednesday night, my phone exploded. Not from her, from her mother. How dare you serve my daughter with divorce papers like she's some kind of criminal? After everything she's done for you. She made one mistake in therapy trying to be open with you and you're throwing away your entire marriage. Ma'am, with respect, your daughter told me she'd choose another man over me. Her husband. That's not a mistake. That's a confession of where her heart actually is. She was being honest. You always told her you wanted honesty in your marriage, and I got exactly that. Now she gets to experience the consequences of that honesty. I'm not going to apologize for having self-respect. You're going to regret this for the rest of your life. She's the best thing that ever happened to you and you're too blind to see it. If that's true, then I'm genuinely excited to see what comes next in my life. Goodbye. I hung up. Blocked her number immediately. I know that probably sounds petty to some people, but I genuinely cannot handle the emotional manipulation and guilt-tripping right now. I need to protect my mental health. Thursday brought a surprise visitor to my buddy's apartment. Her best friend showed up unannounced. Apparently my wife told her exactly where I was staying. You need to come home and talk to her like a rational adult. She's an absolute mess, I'm sure she is. She didn't mean what she said in that therapy session. She was confused and overwhelmed. The therapist pushed her into an emotional corner and she panicked. The therapist asked a simple question. Your friend answered it voluntarily. Without being forced. Without hesitation. Marriage takes work. You can't just walk away because of one difficult conversation where my wife explicitly told me she'd pick her ex over me. Without even thinking about it. Yeah, actually I absolutely can walk away from that and I am walking away. You're being so dramatic about this. I'm being clear about my boundaries. There's a significant difference. Please leave. She left reluctantly but not before telling me I was making the biggest mistake of my life. People really love that phrase. Like they have some crystal ball that shows them the future. Friday evening my wife finally got through to me by calling from a random unknown number I didn't recognize. Please. Can we just talk? Face to face. I'll come anywhere you want. Name the place. There's nothing left to talk about. The papers are filed. The process has started. You can't just end 7 years of marriage like this over one moment. I'm not the one who ended it. You ended our marriage when you told a therapist you'd choose your ex over your husband without a moment's hesitation. I'm just making it official. I was trying to be honest. You always said honesty was the foundation of our relationship, and now you're getting complete honesty back. I honestly don't want to be married to someone who fantasizes about another man and admits it out loud in front of witnesses. That's my honest truth. This isn't fair. You're punishing me for being vulnerable. I'm protecting myself from someone who clearly doesn't value our marriage the way I do. That's not punishment. That's self-respect. That's self-preservation. She started crying on the phone. Told me she loved me. That she'd made a terrible mistake. That she'd do absolutely anything to fix what she'd broken. Have you messaged him since the therapy session? I asked quietly. Silence on the other end. Have you contacted your ex since I walked out of that room? More silence. Then, almost whispering, I was upset and hurting. I needed someone to talk to who would understand. There it was. The truth revealing itself again. So your very first instinct when our marriage was in complete crisis was to reach out to the man you said you'd choose over me. Thanks for confirming beyond any doubt that I made the right decision. I hung up. Update 2. 3 weeks later, things have gotten significantly messier and more revealing about who my wife really is. She hired an attorney. Not just any attorney, an aggressive pit bull type known around town for brutal divorce tactics and maximizing settlements. Her parents are paying for the entire thing, apparently. First clear sign that this isn't going to be the amicable split I'd naively hoped for. Her lawyer's opening move was demanding I immediately vacate the marital home so she could move back in. She'd been staying with her parents since I left, and apparently that was traumatic and humiliating for her. My attorney pushed back firmly. The house is jointly owned by both of us. Neither party has any legal obligation to leave until it's sold or the divorce is finalized. But the aggressive demand told me everything I needed to know about how this was going to proceed. Then came the financial discovery process. Standard divorce procedure. Both sides have to fully disclose all assets, debts, income sources. Her attorney is now claiming I hid money from her because my salary increased by $15,000 last year due to a promotion I received. I didn't hide a single thing. It's all right there on my tax returns that she signed. But they're trying to argue I should have proactively informed her about future earnings potential and that the promotion represents hidden value. My attorney says this is just posturing. Trying to negotiate from a position of manufactured strength. But dealing with it is still exhausting and expensive. The ex situation developed in interesting ways too. Through mutual friends who still talk to both of us, I learned some details that painted a much fuller picture of what had really been happening. Turns out, her ex had reached out to her first about 6 months ago. He reconnected through Instagram with a casual message. It started with innocent, "How are you doing?" messages that gradually became more personal over time. She never mentioned any of this to me. Not once in 6 entire months. She'd been in regular contact with this guy while supposedly working on saving our marriage with me. The couple's therapy was never really about saving our marriage. It was about easing her guilt while she figured out whether her ex was a viable option for her future. When I brought this up through our attorneys, because we're not supposed to communicate directly anymore, her response through her lawyer was very telling. She didn't deny any of it. She just said the conversations were emotionally supportive and not romantic in nature. Cool. So my wife was getting secret, emotional support from her ex for 6 months while we were actively paying for marriage counseling together. Totally normal, healthy marriage behavior. Her family has been absolutely relentless in their campaign. Her father actually called my workplace asking to speak with me directly. HR had to get involved because he showed up in the lobby twice demanding to see me. I consulted my attorney about a restraining order. Though he says it probably won't go anywhere unless there's actual threatening behavior documented. Her sister started a text campaign from multiple different phone numbers that I didn't recognize. Same theme every single time. I'm destroying the family. I'm being needlessly cruel. I need to be a man and fight for my marriage. Apparently their definition of being a man means accepting that my wife openly prefers someone else and just living with that knowledge. Fighting to keep someone who doesn't want to be kept. No thanks, but here's where things got really interesting and somewhat satisfying. Her ex. He's not actually interested in her the way she thought he was. A mutual friend who knows the situation showed me his recent Instagram stories. He's been dating someone else for the past 4 months. Seems pretty serious too. Vacation photos together. Meeting each other's families. The whole relationship progression deal. My wife apparently either didn't know this crucial detail or chose to completely ignore it while fantasizing about him, so she blew up a real marriage for a fantasy that never existed. A guy who dumped her once before and is clearly not available to her now. And she chose that impossible fantasy over me. I'd almost feel sorry for her situation if she hadn't spent the last 3 weeks trying to take me to the cleaners financially while painting me as the villain. The house went up for sale last week. Listed at $485,000 based on comparable sales in the neighborhood. We should each walk away with around $90,000 after the mortgage is paid off, assuming it sells reasonably close to asking price. That's the only silver lining in this entire mess. My attorney says we should be able to finalize everything within the next 2 months if she stops fighting every minor point in detail. But her attorney keeps filing motions to delay and extend timelines. The longer this drags out, the more expensive it gets for both of us in legal fees. But her parents are bankrolling her entire legal strategy, so she has no incentive to be reasonable or efficient. I'm still staying with my buddy. It's cramped and inconvenient, but it's temporary. Once the house sells and I get my share, I'll get my own place. Start completely fresh. Figure out who I am outside of a marriage I genuinely thought would last forever. It's done. I signed the final papers last week. Officially divorced after 7 years of marriage and 9 years together, the final settlement was about what my attorney had predicted from the beginning. House sold for $472,000, slightly under asking price. But the market's been unpredictable lately. After mortgage payoff and all the selling costs and commissions, we each walked away with about $83,000 cash. Retirement accounts got split exactly down the middle. She kept her car. I kept mine. Personal belongings divided based on who originally bought what and what we could agree on. Total cost of the divorce process, about $14,000 in legal fees for me. Her parents spent considerably more on her aggressive attorney, probably close to $25,000. Worth every penny I spent for my peace of mind and closure. The final month was exhausting but also deeply revealing about who she really is. Her attorney tried one last desperate play in the final stretch, claiming she was entitled to ongoing spousal support because she'd sacrificed career opportunities to support our marriage and home. My attorney demolished this argument in about 10 minutes flat. She makes $67,000 a year as a project manager at a reputable company. I make $92,000 as an engineer. We have no children together. She wasn't a stay-at-home spouse who gave up her career trajectory for our family. She was a working professional who simply happens to earn less than me. That's not grounds for alimony in any reasonable interpretation of the law. The judge agreed completely. No spousal support awarded. Clean break for both parties. During the final hearing, I saw her in person for the first time in almost 2 months. She looked tired. Worn down by the whole process. Older somehow than I remembered. Her mother was there in the gallery, shooting absolute daggers at me from across the courtroom. Her father sat with his arms crossed, shaking his head disapprovingly at everything my attorney said. Her sister wasn't present. Apparently they'd had some kind of falling out over something completely unrelated to the divorce. When we had to approach the table together to sign the final papers, she tried to talk to me quietly. I hope you know I never meant for any of this to happen. I know you didn't mean it to happen. That's almost worse actually. What do you mean? If you'd meant it, if you'd planned it all out, at least there would have been a reason. Some calculation behind it. Instead, you just spoke your truth in a moment of vulnerability. And your truth was that you'd choose someone else over me. After everything we built together. After 9 years. I was confused. I still am confused about everything. Then I genuinely hope you find clarity eventually. I really do. But you're not going to find it with me. She started crying softly. Her mother rushed over immediately, glaring at me like I'd personally caused all of this. Like I was the villain in their family's narrative. I signed my name on the final line and walked out of the courthouse. Here's what happened with her ex. Since I know everyone's curious about that subplot. He never contacted her back after she reached out during our separation. Complete radio silence from him. And now he's engaged to his girlfriend. I saw the announcement on social media last week. My ex-wife's fantasy man was never actually available to her. She destroyed a real, functioning marriage for an imaginary alternative future that was literally never going to happen. I heard through remaining mutual friends that she's absolutely devastated by his engagement announcement. That she feels betrayed because he led her on with their messages. The irony is almost too perfect to be real. She betrayed me for a fantasy about someone who, in her mind, then betrayed her right back by choosing someone else. Her mother has been telling anyone who'll listen that I'm a monster who abandoned his wife during a mental health crisis. Apparently the therapy confession is now being completely reframed as a breakdown that I should have compassionately supported her through. The narrative gymnastics required to reach that conclusion would be genuinely impressive if they weren't so transparently pathetic. A few mutual friends have picked sides in all this. Most went with her. She's always been better at the sympathy game and generating emotional support, and her family has been working overtime on the public relations campaign. I lost about 6 friends I thought were genuine and loyal. The handful who stuck around and heard my side are the ones who actually mattered anyway. My buddy let me stay with him the entire time without complaint. Never asked for rent money, never made me feel like a burden even for a moment. When I tried to pay him for the extra utilities I'd used, he told me to put it toward my new apartment deposit instead. That's what real friendship looks like. I moved into my own place 2 weeks ago. 1-bedroom apartment, nothing fancy or impressive, but it's completely mine. Quiet neighborhood, clean space, no reminders of a life that's completely over now. Am I bitter about how things ended? Sometimes, honestly. It's hard not to feel some bitterness when you realize someone you loved deeply for 9 years was secretly fantasizing about someone else for at least 6 months, probably longer. When you realize the therapy was probably never really about saving the marriage, it was about her working up the courage to eventually leave while managing her guilt, but mostly, I'm relieved. The worst part was never the divorce itself. It was the years of sensing that something was off but not being able to name it or address it directly. Now I finally know the truth. And knowing, even when the truth hurts deeply, is better than the alternative of living in uncertainty. She sent me one final message last week after the divorce was completely finalized. It came through email since I'd blocked her everywhere else. I know you probably won't read this, but I need to say it anyway. I'm sorry. Not for what I said in therapy. I've come to realize I actually meant it at the time, and you deserve to know the truth about where my head was at. I'm sorry for not being brave enough to say it sooner before we wasted more years. I'm sorry for wasting your time and your love. I hope you find someone who chooses you first every single time. You deserve that from me, and I couldn't give it to you. I read it carefully. I didn't respond. There was nothing meaningful left to say between us. She was right about one thing though. I do deserve someone who chooses me first without hesitation. And now I have the opportunity to find that person. Even if it takes a while to trust again. Even if it means being alone for now while I heal. The house we built together belongs to someone else now. The future we planned together is gone completely. But I'm still here. Slightly poorer financially. Significantly wiser about people. And finally free from a marriage that was apparently one-sided for longer than I knew. Some people in my original post asked if I regret walking out of that therapy session. If I should have stayed calm and talked it through. If I should have given her a chance to explain or take it back. Now, I don't regret it for a single second. When someone tells you who they really are, believe them immediately. When someone tells you they'd choose someone else over you, let them go. Don't beg. Don't compete for affection. Don't try to convince someone to want you when they've already told you they don't. Just leave with your dignity intact. And don't look back. That's exactly what I did. And it's the best decision I've ever made.